Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. My name is Marv Jr. This is Become the Podcast. How do you become anything? You dream, you declare, you commit, and success is your next breath. So I'm at a disclosed location, not really. I'm actually just outside. You might hear the birds chirping. You might hear my son in his little Jeep driving by. You may hear my daughter playing around. You may hear some different noises, and I also got Stevie Wonder playing in the background. So with that being said, there might be some different noises out here, but I'm out here doing a podcast to multitask. I want to watch the kids play. I want to be around to watch the kids play and just be, give them some supervision. But at the same time, I also want to, make use of this time and do a podcast, because I had a really, really cool moment yesterday that I want to share with you, in hopes that it will empower you, inspire you, and hopefully give you something to listen to and something to think about moving forward. But 1 second, my daughter is always leaving out the house and she forgets to close the door, so let me take care of this. Lucy, close the door, please. So, again, this might be another short one. I think my days of doing a 45-minute podcast, they may be few and far between. I may have more 15-minute, 20-minute podcasts locked and loaded than the 45-minute ones. But I had a friend talk to me or call me some months ago and say that his job was they were doing some layoffs, and they may potentially do some layoffs, and that his job may be one of them. And so obviously he was really, really concerned because he had just got the job. And so very shortly after getting the job, he was told that his job might be in jeopardy. And so he called me, and it was kind of not necessarily worried, but a lot of people call me not necessarily to just talk them off the ledge. People call me to talk them off the ledge, and to not necessarily give them some optimistic, perspective or for unreal world or something like that, but more so just to give them a perspective that helps them to confront the brutal facts, but also figure out, ways in which they may have to pad and pivot when or if the doom takes place, right? So I said, well, listen, bro, you're not laid off yet. You just got the job. So until they lay you off, you working. And until they lay you off, you got a job. And so giddy up, get after it, make it hard for them to let you go, put in your work, work hard, learn everything you need to learn, but don't work with the thought of, man, my job's going to be gone in a few weeks or a few months or anything like that. Just work and learn everything you need to learn at this location so that you'll be ready for the next destination, the next stop, the next opportunity, whatever the case may be. So he never ever called me after that talking about his job, talking about what his job might do, what they may do, what they might not do. He never ever called me in any fear or anything like that. And we never even talked about the idea that his job could be getting laid off. And I think from the time that he told me that they were doing layoffs, and what he told me yesterday, there were people actually being laid off, but he never allowed that to compromise his faith and his confidence in what he was doing and what he was going through. It never allowed him to shake him, or at least he didn't lead me to believe that he was kind of uncertain, knowing that people were being laid off. So he calls me yesterday, and it was funny. I typically don't say stuff like this, but I had a gut feeling. So he calls me yesterday. He says, "What's up, fam?" I said, "What's good?" And I said, they fire you yet? He said, "Yeah, they did today." So it's funny how my intuition and my gut just knew, right? So I started laughing, and he starts laughing too. And so I say, what's going on? So they laid you off. Now what? He says, "Well, actually, I'm on my way to another job interview." And he said, "This job interview, they're going to put me up for the night. They're going to take care of my transportation." And I started thinking to myself, signs, man. Signs. I said, it's funny. You just come off vacation. He just came off vacation. He said he talked to supervisor about his trip. He said he wasn't in his office for 5 minutes before they called him down to HR, him and his boss. And they told him that they were laying him off. And upon that news, he knew that he was going to a job interview that, later on that day. And so I was saying signs, and I kept repeating signs because I feel like God was letting them know you don't even have to think twice about this job versus this job. You're comfortable at this job. Over here at this job, you might not be as comfortable at first. Maybe it's a bigger business, it's a bigger company, it's more people involved. Maybe now you got to think about where you're going to live now, right? Where he's already settled in at his previous job. He's already settled into the job itself. He's settled into his living location. He's settled into his image and his reputation within this company, within the business. He's already got his friends. He knows how to navigate through the shifty people and the people who are really, really cool and all of that stuff. Like, he's comfortable. When you've been at a job for a while, you get comfortable, and you get comfortable with that town, that city, that flow, that energy, that vibe, the people. You get comfortable. And so now to think about going somewhere else, even though money might be involved, it can sometimes be a bit of a hassle. You might think to yourself, well, maybe I don't want to start from scratch. Maybe I don't want to learn, I don't want to learn all the other, I don't want to learn another location. I just want to stay where I am. And so he didn't have to worry about even going back and forth, with that thought process, because his previous job is done. Now wherever he goes, that's going to be his new job. And so now he gets to appreciate the new opportunity without having to consider the old opportunity, if that makes any sense. And so I said, wow, man, you must be hungry now. You must be even more motivated. You must be even more eager to get another job. And so that's another thing that happened, another blessing in disguise. This job is gone. Now you have this other opportunity. Without this another job, now you're going to audition or you're going to interview. And it's almost like, I heard this story about this, and I think it was in Good to Great. There's another book by Napoleon Hill, but in Good to Great is a story about this guy who's leading his troops into battle, and they're on this battleship, and they reach land, and they turn around, take the cannons, and they blow up the battleship, and they basically say either I'm going to conquer the land or be conquered, right? And that's kind of what happened to him. Now that he's blown up the battleship has been blown up by way of the job being, by him being laid off of his previous job, he has no other option but to conquer the land or either be conquered. So that's some good pressure. That's some added pressure. You think about some of these people who travel to New York and LA or and wherever the action is, Hollywood, and they basically spend all their money on getting there and maybe getting a little small hotel, a small apartment. They said, I got 10 days to make it. I got an interview, I got an audition, I got some opportunity to show somebody what I'm good at, and I got a couple days to make it happen. And either I make it happen and I got another opportunity to make it happen again the next day, or I don't make it happen, I got to go home, or I got to find my way home because I just spent all my money to get here. It gives you another level of intensity. It gives you another level of focus. It gives you another level of hunger. You know what I'm saying? And en route to getting whatever it is you want. And so I said, man, without that job, you now got to knock it out the box. So as we began talking, he told me that one of his old professors from his grad program was also a provost at the institution where he was going. And I said, man, another sign. And he also has been asking this gentleman for his mentorship. So they've been in talks. This guy is in administration at this other institution, and then on top of it, he's a mentor to him. So this is an added layer to their relationship, meaning there's a chance that, if with this guy's resume, and if they ask him if he asks to be a reference or asks to speak to him on behalf of my friend, there's this chance that because of the gentleman's resume and where what he's done and what he's doing in the school, he might be able to speak on behalf of my friend and even give my friend more leverage in terms of being hired. Again, the signs. Long story short, today is the day my friend is interviewing. He's interviewing today. So I don't know how it's going to end. We did talk about the reality that, you know what, everything can line up. And as far as you're concerned, everything can line up and still somehow you can still end up not getting that job. It's possible. And so I told him, you know, you learn everything you need to learn at your previous location, learn whatever you can learn at this interview, and then take it to the next stop. Don't get upset if you don't get it. Don't get shook. Don't get concerned. I mean, you know, a healthy amount of concern, right? But don't get emotional and then lose sight of all the learning opportunities that were along the way. You know, if you don't get the job. But hopefully I'll call him later on today and he has some good news for me, or just say it went well, or maybe they might say they offered me the job on the spot. Who knows? But hopefully that when I talk to him later on today, I get some good news. But here's my thing. Sometimes, man, we think that setback is a devastating blow that speaks of devastation and absolute just a death sentence. And it doesn't have to be. It could also be a setup. There's this concept called the law of polarity that states that everything has a polar opposite. You know what I'm saying? The same thing to make you laugh or make you cry. How about this? The same thing to make you cry, make you laugh. Right? The same thing that will put you through absolute agony can make you rejoice and laugh in absolute victory. Right? But it can also go the same way. But it's how are you going to choose to look at what you're going through. And so my friend and I, we started laughing about how they possibly kicked them out, and we just go off on these tangents and we keep upping up one another on like what they said when they kicked them out. And he'll say something. He said, "No, they said this when they kicked me out." And I said, "No, they said this when they kicked you out." And we go on and on and on. And it in the images that we create are nothing like what actually happened, right? But we just keep on going and going and going because it's just funny, and that's how we joke. And he said, "You know what, man? I'm driving." And he said, "I knew I could call you and get a good laugh out of this." You know what I'm saying? And again, that's me just talking people off the ledge. I'm not necessarily telling them, hey, man, this is, I'm not telling them everything is great. I'm just kind of confronting the brutal facts, having some fun with it, and then helping people figure out, now, how do you pad and pivot? How do you process this correctly so you can respond correctly? You know what I'm saying? And so, we laughed about it, and then I definitely encouraged them, told them, man, I think some of the things are lining up for you based upon what you're telling me. I think you might be all right. You know what I'm saying? I said, so I'll go there, knock it out the park, and go hard and be desperate, man. Be desperate. Tell them, listen, man, I just got laid off, man, so I need this. I can outwork everybody in here, and who knows if that's true or not, but you never know how the person sitting there listening to that, they might say, man, that makes sense to me, because I remember I was in your seat not too long ago, and I was desperate, and the idea of somebody being desperate to work, desperate to outwork someone else, desperate to get back at it, desperate to exercise their knowledge, desperate to make something else better, that makes sense to me, right? So we'll see what happens. So again, turn that setback into a setup, and I say this on the while at this day and time there are families being split up. Now, this policy, I think, you got the Border Patrol, and you got people who, families, immigrants or whatever, that having their families split up. And they got images that are coming out. Social media's going crazy. The news is going crazy with just the images and the reporting or whatever. And I think Trump signed an executive order to do something about it. And I'm not deep into politics. Some things I know about because the stories are so big you can't escape it. And I'm on social media quite often, putting out content. So I swipe up, swipe down, and sometimes I catch stories. And if I see the same story enough, then I might look into it, and I might get into a conversation about it. Or again, some stories are so big it's hard to escape. But I think he did something to kind of rectify the situation. But the thing had taken place all the way back into 97 and 96. So there's been plenty of administrations that have not done anything about this rule where immigrants or people who have come up to this country that may not have done it the correct way, but we realize why they're coming to America because it's a better situation than where they have been, but there's a way that you got to go about it so that you can be legalized and all this other stuff. And despite all that, to have these people who are trying to create a better life for their families, and even though they may have done it illegally, we understand that they're trying to make it a better way for their family. And some of them don't have kids, and some of them have kids here, and sometimes they have kids over there and they come over here. But to have these families split up, it's ill. It's ill to watch. It's sickening to watch, man. It's devastating, especially as a person who has 3 children, to think that I'm somewhere else and my kids are in some sort of facility, and how they're being treated. I know how they treat me. So if I'm being treated unfairly, I can only imagine how they possibly treat my kids. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say that that's a setback, right? That's a setback. When you get separated from your kids, that's a setback. Those kids being separated from their parents, that's a setback. Not knowing, what's going to happen to your parents, that's a setback. Not knowing what's going to happen to your kids, that's a setback. Dealing with an administration that is very, very adamant about getting rid of illegal immigrants, and knowing that you did it illegally, and knowing that you might fall into a category that or a demographic that may suffer, that may suffer, right, in a lot of different ways. That's a setback. And so now how do you turn that into a setup? How do you now turn that to a setup? There's going to be some people, some families, some kids, some parents that are going to rise to the occasion because they got the spirit of a champion in them, right? And maybe there's a long list of people in their family that has faced adversity and figured it out and responded. And then there's going to be some people who have the opposite spirit. Right? There's a bunch of black folks, there's a bunch of Native Americans, a bunch of people who have had tortured histories, and there's some people who have responded. There are some people who have responded and found a way to turn their setbacks into a set up. But there's a lot of people who didn't get the memo. There's a lot of people who were so beaten down that they couldn't respond, but they continue to have children, they continue to have families, and sometimes that spirit of a champion and that spirit of a victim can carry on from generation to generation and generation. They call that generational trauma, right? Where what my ancestors went through could very well be impacting me today. You know what I'm saying? Why does this family typically make these bad decisions? Why can't they see themselves as being greater than what they are? Because there might be a spirit that lives, there's a spirit that is strong that lives through that family, that makes it hard for them to turn their setback into a set up, right? But then there's other people that you look at them and they say, wow, man, you guys have really turned things around. But then you talk to them about their history, and they talk to you about their humble beginnings and how their father and mother struggled, and how their grandparents struggled, and their great grandparents struggled, and their great grandparents and their ancestors struggled. But every step of the way they were evolving, they were getting stronger, they were getting smarter, they were getting more sophisticated in their approach. Every generation was making it just a tad bit better for the next generation, and sacrificing and building and learning and teaching and doing so on and so forth. And that's why you see these people living the life, but they come from such humble beginnings because somebody way back when made a decision. I know I can make it better, and I might not experience what that better may feel like and look like, but I know I can make it better for generations in the future. So I say all that to say, man, it's not always easy to turn your setback into a setup. It's not always easy, and for some people it's a little bit, it may seem like it's easier, right? Some people may seem like it's easier because of what you're going through, or what you're going through may be really, really tough because it's tough for you. When somebody might look at your situation and say, man, you can't get through that. And then you may say, well, you may look at your situation and say, this is what I went through, man. You can't get through that. So everybody has their own creative blocks and their own challenges that make it tough for them to figure things out. Everybody's got their own challenges, and there's some people that make the impossible look easy over here, but over here, they can't figure it out. You know what I'm saying? There's some people that have found a way to stop smoking, but they can't find a way to stay away from the alcohol. This person over here found a way to stop smoking and quit the alcohol, but they're having a hard time, developing the confidence to exist within a healthy relationship, right? Well, this person, they figured out the ability, they figured out how to be within a healthy relationship, and they figured out how to empower their mates, so on and so forth. But man, they're having a hard time with the abusing medication. You dig what I'm saying? So everybody's got their challenges, and where you may be strong in one area, you may be not so strong in another area. So with that being said, there's going to be some times where you can turn certain setbacks into a setup, and there's going to be some setbacks that are just absolutely devastating and you can't convert into a setup. So I'm just being empathetic, man, and saying, just giddy up, pray about it, talk to your higher source, and know that we all gonna have our frailties from time to time. And what was once a strength might be a frailty, and what's once a frailty might be a strength. And that sometimes you're gonna have both of those. You're gonna have a bunch of strengths, and sometimes you're gonna have a bunch of frailties, right? And everything's gonna fluctuate based upon the time of your life, based upon your responsibilities, based upon your money, how much money you're bringing in. It's gonna be a lot of variables that are gonna dictate success, right? But the main thing is to kind of keep a clear mind, right? So that you can process what it is you're going through and understand that what might look like something that's supposed to be setting me back or push me back may actually be working to provide me leverage for something awesome and amazing throughout my life or down in the future. And for my main man, he was able to quickly figure out that this setback was just really a setup. He was able to kind of process that quickly and not allow himself to feed into the doubt. And maybe that's when he started to feed into the doubt. He called me and said, "Let me laugh at my man Marv, because I know he's going to make me see the other side of this thing." Or some people don't have that luxury, right? Because they don't have anybody they can call, or they don't at least they don't think they can. So they allow their mind to go to some different places. But for my main man, he was able to kind of come out of that funk, laugh about it, and view and see all the ways in which everything that he had done at his previous job, all the learning opportunities, all the experience he got, all the connections he made, the professional experience he developed was going to be exactly what he needed for his next opportunity. So with that being said, I'm done. I'm going to give you guys the mantra. Greatness lives on the edge of death. I am not afraid to die. I will fight for my dreams. I will celebrate my dreams, and I will die for my dreams. Thoughts are things, and everything starts off as a thought first. You heard me say this before, but I'll say it again because it's the truth. Convert your setback into a set up. Once again, my name is Marv Jr. You listen to the sounds of Stevie Wonder, the Black Pool of Genius. Done.